Capricorn, Capricorn. The line you cross that makes Capricornio go silent forever. Number 5 is brutal. There's an invisible line. A border you don't see until you cross it. And when you cross that line with a Capricorn, something changes forever. It's not drama. It's not theatrics. It's silence. A silence so profound it feels like a wordless goodbye. And the scariest part? You might not even realize you've crossed that line until it's too late. Today, we're going to delve into the 5 reasons why Capricorns choose to quietly withdraw, and why, once that happens, there's rarely a return. And I'll warn you now, reason number 5 is absolutely brutal. If you want to understand what's really going on behind that cold expression, that distant look, that everything's fine, that clearly isn't, then subscribe to the channel and leave your like now. Because what you're about to discover may completely change the way you see this sign. Ready? Let's go. Capricorns don't talk about how hard they work. They don't ask for recognition. They don't list the sacrifices they make. They simply do it. They build silent bridges between you and your dreams. They carry stones you don't even know exist. And they continue day after day, because for them, to love is to build. But here's the painful truth. There's a huge difference between being valued and being taken for granted. When you start treating Capricorn's effort as something expected, as if it were natural for them to always be there, always solve everything, always bear the weight alone, something begins to crack inside. It's subtle at first. They don't say anything. They don't complain. But internally, every thank you that doesn't come, every ignored gesture, every invisible sacrifice accumulates like ashes in the depths of their soul. Think about it. Have you ever felt like you give your all and nobody notices? That you are the foundation everyone stands on, but nobody looks down to see who is holding up the ground? Capricorns experience this, and they live in silence. They won't make a dramatic scene. They won't list everything they've done for you, but they will start to wonder, if I stop doing this, will anyone miss me? Or will they only miss what I do? And when that question becomes too heavy, when the answer starts to sound like a painful echo of nobody sees you, they just use you, Capricorn doesn't argue, doesn't explain, doesn't give noisy second chances. They simply stop. And along with that stopping comes silence. A silence that is not anger, it is resignation. It is the silent decision not to invest any more energy where it is not valued. Do you understand the cruel irony? The sign that builds mountains of stability for others is also the sign that, when it feels reduced to a tool, withdraws its presence without warning. Like a mountain that simply decides it will no longer be climbed. It doesn't disappear. It just becomes untouchable. And perhaps the saddest part is this. When Capricorn walks away for this reason, they take with them all the unacknowledged gestures, all the silent work through the early mornings, all the love translated into action that you never knew how to call love. They don't hate you. They've just learned that you don't need them. You only need what they do. And for a Capricorn, that's the coldest kind of loneliness there is. Let's talk about something many people don't understand about Capricorns. They don't trust easily. And when they finally trust you, it's not because you asked. It's because you proved it. Capricorns observe. They watch how you treat other people. They notice if your words match your actions. They mentally register every promise, every commitment, every small agreement. And after months, sometimes years, of silent observation, they finally open that heavy door of the heart and say, without words, okay, you can come in. But here's what you need to understand. This door only opens once. When you break a Capricorn's trust, whether with a lie, betrayal, or a repeated empty promise, you're not just making a mistake. You're invalidating the entire process of building trust with them. And Capricorn? They'll give you a second chance, maybe even a third. Not because they're naive, but because they're fair. They understand that people make mistakes, that life isn't perfect, that even solid rocks can crack under pressure. But what happens when the pattern repeats itself? When the breach of trust becomes a habit? When they realize you haven't changed, you just apologized nicely. That's when something happens that can't be undone. Capricorns don't explode. They don't scream, "You betrayed me," with dramatic tears. No, What happens is much colder, much more final. They simply shut down. Like a vault door that locks from the inside. You may still be physically present in their lives, in the same house, the same office, even the same bed. But emotionally, you've become a stranger. Someone they know, but don't trust. Someone they tolerate, but won't open up to. And here's the part that hurts. You may never know the exact moment it happened. Capricorn doesn't announce when they're giving up on you. There are no ultimatums, no this is your last chance conversations. They decide, alone, in the silence of the night, I'm no longer going to wait for this person to be who I thought they were. And then comes the silence. A polite silence. Courteous even, but empty. Like talking to a wall shaped like a person. Have you ever tried to reconnect with someone who has clearly decided that you no longer deserve access to their heart? No matter what you say, it feels like you're speaking through soundproof glass. They hear, but they don't feel anymore. They respond, but they don't connect anymore. This is what happens when you repeatedly break a Capricorn's trust. You don't lose outbursts or confrontations from them. You lose something far worse. You lose the privilege of mattering. And once that privilege is gone, no excuse, no promise, no belated change can bring it back. Because Capricorn has already rebuilt the walls. And this time, they left no door. Here's something fascinating and tragic about Capricorns. They can withstand harsh criticism. They can hear hard truths. They can even accept that they were wrong, that they failed, that they weren't good enough. In private. But should you expose their flaws publicly? Humiliate them in front of others? Use their vulnerabilities as a joke or a weapon in front of an audience? You've just crossed the point of no return. Capricorns carry an invisible armor. In the eyes of the world, they are the mountain. Immovable, reliable, unbeatable. They built this image not out of vanity, but for survival. Because deep down, very deep down where no one sees, there is a child who one day learned that the world has no pity for the weak. That if you show a crack, people don't offer glue. They stick their finger in the wound. So Capricorn learned to be strong. To not cry in public. To not let anyone see when they are bleeding inside. And what happens when someone they loved, someone they trusted, someone to whom they privately showed their flaws, uses those same flaws for public entertainment? The betrayal runs so deep that it cuts through layers you didn't even know existed. Think about it. Have you ever trusted someone enough to take off their mask? To show that you're also human, that you also doubt yourself, that you're also afraid? And then that person turned that vulnerability into a joke. In front of others? How did you feel? Small, right? Exposed. Betrayed not only in trust, but in humanity. Capricorns feel this 1,000-fold. Because for them, public image isn't about ego. It's about protection. It's the wall between them and a world they've learned not to trust. And when you tear down that wall in public, you're not just being cruel. You're announcing to the whole world where they are vulnerable. And Capricorn never forgives that. Not because they're vengeful, but because you proved something they always feared, that not even you, who knew the side of them that nobody sees, could protect that side. So what do? Silence. Not the passive-aggressive silence of someone who wants you to realize they're angry. The permanent silence of someone who has decided you'll never again have access to their truth. You'll still see them smile. Professionals, even. Polite, too. But that person who laughed with you at 3 a.m., who shared fears, who trusted you, they're dead. And you were the one who held the gun. And the cruelest part? Capricorn will continue to be successful, will continue building, will continue to be the mountain. But you will never again see its human side. You will never again hear the thoughts that happen in silence. It will never matter again. Because you chose the laughter of others over their trust. And Capricorn never forgets when someone makes that choice. Now tell me in the comments, have you ever felt the pain of being exposed by someone you trusted? Have you ever crossed that line with a Capricorn? Or were you the one who felt the weight of their silence? Right below. I want to know your story. Because sometimes putting what we've been through into words is the first step to understanding the wound. And perhaps healing it. Let me tell you a painful secret about Capricorns. They will never ask to be a priority. They'll never come up to you and say, "Hey, you're putting me second." They'll never throw a tantrum because you canceled plans with them to be with someone else. They'll never compete for your attention with tears or ultimatums. Why? Because Capricorns deeply believe in something almost antiquated these days. If you want to be with them, you will be. If you value them, you will show it, without needing to be asked. So they watch, silently, registering every time you choose someone else. Every last-minute canceled plan. Every sorry, something came up. Every time they are available, vulnerable, waiting, and you are somewhere else, with someone else. And let's be clear, Capricorns understand that you have other relationships, other friends, other responsibilities. They aren't possessive or irrational. They don't expect to be the center of your universe 24/7. But there's a huge difference between having other priorities and never being a priority. And when the pattern becomes clear, when Capricorns realize they're always plan B, when there's nothing better option, the person you're with when everyone else is busy, something silently breaks inside them. It's not anger. It's resignation. It's a silent pain of realizing, I matter to this person, but not enough. And here's what will break your heart. Capricorn will still be there. They'll still answer your messages. They'll still say, okay, when you cancel again. Because they understand that forcing someone to choose them has no value. Forced choice isn't choice. It's obligation in disguise. But internally, they are saying goodbye to you. Little by little. Every time you choose someone else, they choose to become less attached to you. Every time you're not there, they're less present emotionally as well. Until one day you realize, Capricorn is still in your life, but they're no longer invested in it. They don't fight for your attention. They don't get hurt when you cancel. They don't expect anything anymore. And that should scare you, because it means they've already finished grieving. They've already mourned the loss of what you could have been. They've already accepted that you'll never see them the way they see you. And now you're just another name on their contact list. Someone they know, but not someone they need. Do you realize the devastating irony? Capricorn, the sign of loyalty, consistency, slow and steady building, becomes completely detached when they realize you're not building anything with them. That they're stacking bricks alone while you're helping build houses for other people. And when Capricorn lets go, there's no drama. There's no confrontation. There's only a growing distance that you might not even notice until it's too vast to cross. And then you finally turn around and think, where did Capricorn go? And the astonishing answer is, they never went anywhere. They just stopped waiting for you to come to them. Because waiting for someone who never arrives isn't love. It's self-punishment. And Capricorn can be many things, but self-destructive? Not for long. So they do what they do best. They build something new. A life where they don't have to compete for crumbs of attention. Where they aren't a second choice. Where someone finally chooses them without them having to beg for it. And you're left with the memory of what could have been if you had chosen differently. We've arrived at the most brutal reason. The deepest one. The one that cuts Capricorn in places they didn't even know were vulnerable. When you make a Capricorn feel like their love is never enough. Let's stop everything here and really understand what this means. Because this isn't about a fight. It's not about a mistake. It's about a repeated, silent, devastating message that Capricorn receives day after day until it seeps so deeply that it becomes truth in their minds. The way I love isn't the right way. Let me explain. Capricorns don't love with flowery words. They don't write spontaneous poems. They don't make grand romantic gestures like in movies. Their love is practical. It's tangible. It's built with calloused hands and infinite patience. They love making sure you have what you need. Fixing what's broken. Working extra to pay that bill you forgot. Remembering what you said 3 months ago you wanted. Building a future while everyone else is posting about feelings. For Capricorn, love is responsibility. It's about showing up. It's about being the rock when everything around you crumbles. It's about sacrificing sleep, time, and energy to ensure you are safe, stable, and protected. But then you come along, and subtly, perhaps without even realizing it, you start sending signals. You never say, "You love me." You're not romantic. "I wish you were more spontaneous." "Other people do X, Y, Z, why don't you?" And each of these phrases, each comparison, each suggestion that their love is inadequate, is like a hammer blow to the foundation of Capricorn's emotional identity. Because here's the truth that will destroy you. Capricorn already doubts they know how to love properly. Beneath all that outward confidence, all that competence, all that strength, lies a deep and painful insecurity. What if I'm not kind? What if the way I love isn't what people want? They see other people loving in lighthearted, poetic, and emotional ways. They see people who cry easily, who say, "I love you" 5 times a day, who make surprises, videos, and public declarations. And Capricorn? Capricorn is silent building, providing, protecting, loving in the only way they know how. And what happens when you, the person they've placed their heart in, confirm their deepest fear that this love isn't enough? That you want a different kind of love? Something dies inside them. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with a sadness so old and deep that it seems it has always been there, just waiting to be confirmed. And Capricorn won't argue with you about it. They won't defend the way they love. Because deep down, they believe you're right. That they're flawed. That they don't know how to love the way they should. So they do the only thing they know how to do when the pain is too great. They stop loving you completely. Not because they don't care, but because continuing to love someone who considers your love inadequate is self-inflicted emotional violence. It's offering yourself every day knowing you'll be rejected. It's shouting, "I love you," in a language the other person refuses to learn. And Capricorn is too proud for that. Too worthy. Too tired of never being enough. Then they fall silent. And that silence is the most devastating of all. Because it's not the silence of anger or manipulation. It's the silence of someone who has given up trying to be loved. Of someone who has decided that it's better to be alone than to be with someone who will never value the way they love. And here's what will haunt you forever. After Capricorn shuts down like that, you'll finally realize. You'll miss the way they remembered everything about you. The way they fixed things without you asking. The way they built security around you like a silent temple. You'll realize that this was love. The deepest love you've ever received. Only in a language you never learned to speak. And the most brutal part? Capricorn will already be too far away to hear you finally say, "I understand. I'm sorry. I saw." Because their silence is not an open door waiting for you to return. It's a tomb, where they buried the version of themselves that believed they could be loved by you. So here we are. 5 reasons. 5 invisible lines that, once crossed, turned Capricorn into stony silence. But let's be honest about what's really going on here. Because deep down, very deep down, all these reasons point to the same original wound. Capricorns fear that their truth will never be enough for someone to stay. They build mountains because they fear that if they stop building, you'll realize there's nothing special about them. They work tirelessly because they believe their value lies in what they do, not in who they are. They protect their public image because they've learned that vulnerability is punished. They don't ask to be prioritized because they believe true love doesn't need to be negotiated. And they love in silence, with actions, because words seem too cheap to carry the weight of what they feel. This is the tragedy of Capricorn. They give everything, but believe it's never enough. And what happens when you, perhaps without realizing it, confirm that fear? When do you treat effort as an obligation? When do you repeatedly break trust? When do you publicly humiliate? When do you choose others? When do you insinuate that their love is inadequate? You're not just hurting Capricorn. You're confirming the darkest narrative they carry about themselves. And there is no greater pain than having your worst fear validated by the person you let in. So Capricorn falls silent, not because they are cruel, but because surviving you means shutting down completely. It means no longer expecting, no longer trusting, no longer loving. It means becoming the mountain again, untouchable, solitary, safe, And perhaps, in the silence of the night, Capricorn will weep. Not for you, but for the version of them that still believed someone could see them, truly see them, and stay. But in the morning? In the morning, they wake up. They build. They carry on. Because Capricorn is, above all, a survivor. What if surviving, you means never letting anyone get this close again? So be it. If you've made it this far, perhaps you've recognized something. Maybe you're the Capricorn who read this and felt every word like a mirror. Or maybe you're the person who, unknowingly, crossed one of those lines and now understands why the silence came. And here is the deepest truth I can give you. Capricorn doesn't remain silent because they no longer love. They remain silent because they loved too much, and the cost became too high to pay. So if you love a Capricorn, if you truly love them, learn their language. See the love in silent gestures. Value the effort before it becomes an obligation. Protect their trust like the treasure it is. Defend them publicly, especially when they are vulnerable. Choose them consistently. And most importantly, tell them that the way you love is enough. More than enough. Because Capricorns don't need grand pronouncements. They need to know that building with you is worthwhile. That the temple they are building won't be abandoned when the novelty wears off. And if you're a Capricorn listening to this, know that you're not difficult to love. You're not broken. The way you love, loyal, steadfast, deep, is rare and sacred. You just need to find someone who understands that mountains don't scream, but they hold up the sky. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt that silent pain inside? Have you ever loved someone in a language they refused to learn? Or were you the one who crossed the line and now understand the silence? Write your story in the comments below. Because sometimes putting what we've experienced into words is the only way to transform pain into wisdom. If this video touched you in any way, subscribe, like, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Because perhaps, just perhaps, understanding Capricorn's silence is the first step to never causing it again. Until the next video, Black Heart.